Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever stood at a crossroads in life, unsure which way to go, overwhelmed by choices, and weighed down by fear of making the wrong move? Life often feels like a maze, and the truth is no GPS can lead you through the twists and turns of destiny. But here's the hope when you let God lead. He never misguides. God is never confused about your future. And this truth becomes even more powerful when you realize how often we ourselves are uncertain, fearful, or hesitant about the next step in life. We live in a world where confusion is common, where plans fall apart, where the future seems unpredictable, and where the weight of decision-making can paralyze us. Yet while we wrestle with the unknown, God sees everything clearly. He is not trying to figure things out as he goes along. He has already written every page of your story before you took your first breath. What feels like mystery to you is already mapped out in his divine plan. When you choose yourself, when you rely only on your own understanding, you often walk into uncertainty with limited perspective. You see only what is in front of you, the immediate challenges, the present obstacles, and the fears that whisper about tomorrow. Your vision is short, blurred, and sometimes clouded by emotions, doubts, or past failures. But God's vision is infinite. He knows the details you cannot see. He knows the opportunities that are hidden from you, the dangers waiting ahead, and the blessings that are being prepared in secret. When you choose to trust only yourself, you operate with fragments of the picture. But when you choose to trust him, you align yourself with perfect clarity. God's wisdom goes beyond human reasoning. He is never surprised by your circumstances, never caught off guard by your setbacks, and never uncertain about how to bring good out of bad. Even the mistakes you regret cannot cancel his plan. What seems like wasted years to you are simply pieces of the puzzle he is fitting together for your good. When you walk by faith instead of sight, you are not asking yourself to have all the answers, because you are following the one who already does. Every season of confusion you face has the potential to drive you closer to the assurance that God knows the way. When you cannot see beyond today, he is already in tomorrow. When you feel stuck, he is orchestrating movement behind the scenes. When you feel delayed, he is aligning the right people, the right timing, and the right resources to meet you at the appointed moment. This is why it is dangerous to lean only on your own choices, because human wisdom can mislead, but divine direction never fails. Choosing yourself often means carrying unnecessary burdens. You try to control outcomes, you stress over timelines, and you panic over closed doors. But if you could see through the eyes of God, you would realize that closed doors are often his mercy, detours are often his redirections, and waiting seasons are often his preparation. What feels like denial is sometimes his way of making sure you do not settle for less than what he has destined. God is never confused about your future, even when your life feels tangled in confusion. Every disappointment you've endured, every prayer that felt unanswered, every opportunity that slipped through your fingers is part of a larger design that you may not yet understand. And though your heart may ache with questions, his hands are steady with answers. He is weaving every detail together into a masterpiece that will eventually make sense, even if right now all you see are fragments. When you recognize that God is not confused, you can rest. You no longer have to strive to make everything work according to your plan. You can release the anxiety of self-dependence and embrace the peace of divine guidance. You may not know what the future holds, but you can live boldly because you know the one who holds the future. Detours are divine redirections, and this truth becomes evident when you realize how often life refuses to go according to your plans. You set goals, design timelines, and create expectations, but somewhere along the way the road bends unexpectedly. A door closes, a relationship ends, an opportunity disappears, or a dream seems delayed. In those moments it is easy to believe you are lost or that your future has been derailed. Yet what feels like a setback is often God's way of steering you towards something better. The detour you didn't plan becomes the route you actually needed, because his perspective is greater than your own. When you choose yourself, when you rely only on your plans, Detours feel frustrating and even unfair. You see them as obstacles standing between you and what you want. Your mind questions why the path is blocked, and your heart aches because the delay seems pointless. But divine wisdom teaches that detours are not designed to destroy your progress. They are meant to preserve your destiny. Sometimes the straight road you long for would lead you into danger, distraction, or disappointment. God allows a curve in the road to protect you from what you cannot see. The change in direction is not rejection, but correction. Life is full of stories where the road did not unfold the way people expected. A job loss becomes the reason for discovering a calling. A broken friendship clears space for healthier connections. A missed opportunity makes way for something far greater. Each of these moments reminds you that detours are not accidents. They are divine rerouting. The very thing you thought was holding you back was positioning you for breakthrough. When you lean on your own understanding, you resist these changes. But when you trust God's sovereignty, you begin to see that the detour was the best direction all along. Detours also serve to prepare you. The straight path might get you there faster, but it might not get you there ready. God uses delays to strengthen your character, deepen your faith, and sharpen your vision. When you feel stuck waiting, He is often building in you the qualities you will need to sustain what is ahead. A detour season can teach patience, humility, endurance, and trust, lessons that would be skipped if everything came easily. What looks like wasted time is really invested time, shaping you into the person capable of handling the blessing on the other side. Another reason detours exist is to redirect your focus. When you choose yourself, your plans often center around personal desires and limited perspectives. A detour interrupts that and pushes you to realign with a greater purpose. It forces you to pause, reflect, and sometimes let go of things you were never meant to cling to. The disappointment of an interrupted plan can become the very doorway to discovering God's will for your life. The redirection does not take you away from your purpose. It moves you closer to it. It is important to see that detours are not random. They are ordered steps carefully arranged by a God who knows the path better than you do. While you measure success by speed and convenience, He measures success by transformation and destiny. What you call delay, He calls direction. What you call loss, He calls positioning. Every twist and turn is guiding you toward the exact place you are meant to be, even if you cannot trace it at the moment. When detours appear, the challenge is to stop fighting them and start trusting them. You may feel frustrated because your plan has been interrupted, but if you could see the full picture, you would thank God for not allowing you to have your way. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the dream that was postponed. Each one is a reminder that detours are divine redirections. You are not lost, you are being led. Storms have purpose, and this truth is one of the most difficult to embrace because storms in life rarely feel purposeful. They feel chaotic, destructive, and overwhelming. When you are caught in one, your instinct is to escape, to find safety, and to question why it came in the first place. Yet storms are not accidents, they are instruments. They refine, redirect, and reveal. They are part of the process that shapes your character and strengthens your faith. What feels like a season of breaking often becomes the very season of building. When you choose yourself, storms seem unfair. You see them as punishment or as proof that your life is off course. You try to resist them, hide from them, or blame yourself for them. But storms are not always signs of failure. Sometimes they are evidence of growth. Just as natural storms refresh the earth, clear the air, and prepare the soil for new growth, spiritual storms shake your life in order to remove what does not belong and make space for what is meant to come. What you perceive as destruction may actually be preparation. Storms have purpose because they test your foundation. It is easy to believe in yourself when the skies are clear, but storms reveal what you are truly standing on. If your confidence is built only on personal strength, storms will expose how fragile that is. If your hope is built on shallow promises, storms will wash them away. But when your life is anchored in something unshakable, The storm cannot destroy you. Instead, it proves your strength and confirms your resilience. What you learn about yourself in the middle of a storm cannot be learned in calm weather. Storms also redirect you. When you are too comfortable, you may settle in places you were never meant to remain. A storm can disrupt that comfort, pushing you to move forward when you would rather stay still. It can close one path to open another, forcing you to step into growth you would not have chosen on your own. Those storms feel like interruptions. They often realign you with a greater plan. They take you off the road of complacency and put you back on the road of destiny. Another purpose of storms is to strip away illusions. When everything is calm, it is easy to believe you are in control. You rely on your own plans, your own wisdom, and your own strength. But when storms come, they remind you how limited that control really is. They humble you, teaching you that life cannot be managed by human power alone. They strip away false securities and expose what truly matters. Out of that stripping comes clarity, and out of clarity comes deeper trust. Storms have purpose because they prepare you for what is next. You cannot step into greater responsibilities, deeper relationships, or bigger opportunities without first being strengthened. The struggle of a storm builds endurance, shapes perspective, and equips you to handle what is waiting on the other side. Without storms, growth would be shallow and untested. With storms, growth becomes rooted and resilient. Every trial becomes training for the triumph to come. When you choose yourself, you often see storms only as obstacles. You focus on the inconvenience, the loss, and the pain. But when you step back, you begin to realize that storms can carry blessings hidden within their winds. They bring lessons that comfort cannot teach, courage that ease cannot produce, and vision that stillness cannot reveal. Storms do not come to destroy you, they come to develop you. You don't need the whole map. And this principle challenges the natural desire to want every detail laid out before taking a step forward. Human instinct craves certainty, predictability, and clarity. You want to know where the road begins, where it ends, and everything in between. Yet life rarely provides that kind of certainty. Instead, it gives you glimpses, moments, and opportunities to trust. The whole map is not necessary because guidance is given one step at a time, and it is within those steps that faith is built, endurance is strengthened, and purpose is revealed. When you choose yourself, the desire for the whole map intensifies. You feel as though success depends on your ability to predict and control every outcome. You hesitate to act unless you can see the finish line. This mindset often leads to paralysis because life does not hand you every answer in advance. You end up delaying progress, waiting for guarantees that will never come. In doing so, you miss the beauty of the journey and the lessons hidden in uncertainty. The truth is, the absence of the whole map forces you to live in dependence and humility, rather than in the illusion of control. Not having the entire map also protects you. If you could see every challenge, every setback, and every painful season in advance, fear might keep you from ever starting. Knowing the valleys ahead could discourage you before you even take the first step. By revealing only one direction at a time, you are shielded from the weight of the full journey. This allows you to grow into the person who can face future challenges when they arrive, rather than being crushed by the thought of them too early. The limited view is not a punishment, but a safeguard. Another reason you don't need the whole map is because purpose is not discovered all at once. It unfolds gradually. Each step forward reveals something new about who you are and what you are called to do. If you wait until you understand everything, you will never move. But if you are willing to walk with limited knowledge, you will find that the path makes sense in time. The connections, opportunities, and lessons along the way will form a bigger picture that you could not have imagined from the start. When you choose yourself, you risk becoming obsessed with outcomes instead of obedience. You want to design the entire journey, to know every detail, to control every possibility. Yet this obsession blinds you to the value of the process. Growth does not come from reaching the end quickly. It comes from walking faithfully in the small steps along the way. Every delay, every detour, every unexpected twist has meaning. When you stop demanding the whole map, you free yourself to embrace the present moment and its lessons. You also don't need the whole map because the journey is less about where you are going and more about who you are becoming. Each step without full clarity builds trust, resilience, and courage. Each uncertain moment forces you to let go of fear and lean on faith. By the time you reach the destination, you are not only where you need to be, you have become the person capable of thriving there. The growth happens because the whole map was hidden, not in spite of it. The limited view keeps you moving forward in faith rather than standing still in fear. It pushes you to act without having every answer, to take the next step even when the future feels unclear. The journey becomes an act of trust, one decision at a time. You don't need the whole map because every step is already accounted for, and every moment on the path is shaping you for the place you are meant to arrive. No obstacle can stop his plan, and this truth becomes a source of strength when life places barriers in your way. Obstacles come in many forms: delayed opportunities, personal failures, betrayal, rejection, financial struggles, health issues, or closed doors. To the human eye, they appear as permanent walls that block progress, but in reality, they are only temporary pauses in a much larger plan. Nothing in life, no matter how overwhelming, has the power to cancel what has already been designed. When you choose yourself, obstacles feel final. You see them as proof that your dream is over, your chance is gone, or your purpose is broken. You might even convince yourself that one mistake has ruined everything. But no barrier is bigger than the one who created your path. Obstacles cannot rewrite destiny. They can only delay it until the right time. What looks like an ending is often a setup for a stronger comeback. Choosing yourself blinds you to this truth, because human perspective is limited to what is seen, but divine perspective works with what is unseen. Obstacles often serve as preparation. They test patience, strengthen resilience, and refine character. Without obstacles, growth would be shallow and untested. Each difficulty is an opportunity to develop qualities that success alone cannot build. Endurance is shaped in the struggle, wisdom is formed in the waiting, and courage is born in the face of fear. The obstacle that frustrates you today may be the very thing that equips you for tomorrow. When you rely only on yourself, obstacles feel like punishments. But when you see them through the lens of a greater plan, they transform into stepping stones that carry you forward. Another reason no obstacle can stop the plan is that limitations force creativity. A blocked path makes you discover new ways to move, think, and act. What you thought was the only route may not have been the best one. Obstacles redirect your focus and push you into opportunities you would have overlooked. They close doors that are not meant for you and guide you to doors that are. When you insist on controlling everything yourself, you fight against these redirections. But when you trust the larger plan, you realize the obstacle was part of the guidance system all along. Obstacles also prove that power does not rest in human hands. When challenges rise, they remind you of your limits and point you towards strength beyond yourself. They strip away the illusion of control and expose your dependence. This is not weakness, it is clarity. It shows you that the plan unfolding in your life is not fragile, not accidental, and not vulnerable to being destroyed by human interference. Even when people oppose you, circumstances fail you, or your own choices complicate things, the larger plan remains intact. No obstacle can stop his plan because destiny is not built on convenience but on certainty. The path may twist, the timeline may shift, and the process may look different from what you expected, but the final outcome remains secure. Every barrier that rises up has already been accounted for in the design of your journey. The challenge is to keep walking, even when you cannot see how the obstacle will move. Sometimes it will be removed, sometimes it will be climbed, and sometimes it will redirect you to a better road. Regardless of the form it takes, the obstacle cannot erase what is meant to be. When you choose yourself, obstacles appear as enemies. You focus on the size of the wall instead of the certainty of the plan. But when you recognize the truth, You begin to see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as instruments of growth, redirection, and preparation. They may delay, but they cannot deny. They may frustrate, but they cannot cancel. No obstacle has the power to undo what has already been written for your life. Trust requires surrender, and this truth confronts one of the deepest struggles of human nature, the desire for control. To trust means to place confidence in something beyond yourself, to lean on guidance you cannot always see, and to rest in promises you cannot fully predict. Surrender is the act of letting go, of releasing your grip on outcomes, and allowing a greater will to shape your journey. Trust cannot exist without surrender, because as long as you cling to control, you are relying on yourself rather than yielding to a plan higher than your own. When you choose yourself, surrender feels unnatural. You want certainty, guarantees, and visible results. You want to know how everything will unfold before you commit. But trust is not about having every answer. It is about believing even when answers are hidden. Choosing yourself keeps you locked in anxiety because you try to manage what was never yours to control. You analyze every possibility, calculate every risk, and still feel unsettled because true peace never comes from control. It comes from surrendering control. Surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It takes courage to admit you cannot orchestrate every detail. It takes humility to let go of your timetable and expectations. When you surrender, you release the illusion of self-sufficiency and step into the freedom of dependence. Instead of carrying the crushing weight of outcomes, you allow them to rest in hands far more capable than your own. In that release, trust grows deeper because it no longer depends on circumstances, but on the assurance of guidance greater than your vision. Trust requires surrender because life will always bring uncertainty. You cannot plan every turn, predict every obstacle, or prevent every storm. If you wait until everything makes sense, you will never move forward. Surrender allows you to take the next step without needing the whole map. It frees you to live with faith rather than fear, to walk in confidence rather than hesitation. Without surrender, trust is shallow, conditional, and fragile. With surrender, trust becomes resilient, unconditional, and steady even in the unknown. When you choose yourself, you resist surrender. You hold on tightly to relationships, opportunities, and dreams, believing your grip is what keeps them alive. Yet, clinging often destroys what you are trying to preserve. Surrender does the opposite. It releases the need for control and allows things to unfold as they were meant to. Sometimes what you let go of returns stronger, and sometimes it is replaced with something better. Either way, surrender opens the door to trust that what is meant for you will not pass you by. Surrender also dismantles fear. Much of fear is rooted in the need to control what cannot be controlled. You worry about tomorrow, about loss, about failure, because you are holding on to things you were never meant to manage alone. The moment you surrender, fear loses its grip. You no longer have to figure out every outcome because you have placed those outcomes in greater hands. That release is where trust becomes unshakable because it is no longer tied to your ability, but to unchanging faithfulness. Trust requires surrender because only in surrender can you experience peace. As long as you fight for control, your heart will remain restless, your mind anxious, and your spirit unsettled. But when you release the struggle, you step into calm assurance. You may not know how the future will unfold, but you know you are guided. You may not control the outcome, but you are secure in the process. Trust grows strongest where surrender is complete, and only then can you move forward with confidence into the life designed for you.